Welcome to the third and final part of the series, which explains how I determine who is the greatest of all time in sport. It's the third in the series, so if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, go back and watch them in that order first, and then come back to this again soon. Thank you. Competition. Oh, this makes my blood boil. When I hear that a dominant figure in sport was only dominant because they had weak opposition at the time. If we go back to hypotheticals, we cannot really know the quality of the opposition. Maybe that same opposition in a different era will be winning everything, and even now might be considered as the greatest. Sport will always have a perceived weak era of competition. In the UK in very recent times, we had the golden generation of footballers. They were that good, you know. They went on to win absolutely nothing. There have been many instances of athletes winning because of lack of opposition, but over the course of a career, this of course is an advantage, but not enough to make them the GOAT. Positions played. Now there is a lot in this subject that needs addressing, but once again it will complicate the GOAT analysis and therefore cannot be used. But when I get time, I will break down the GOAT by position. In the current debates about the greatest of all time in certain popular sports, it is the so-called glamorous positions that we see athletes considered. I mentioned earlier about awards. The Ballon d'Or, one of the most prestigious awards that is awarded to footballers, has only ever been awarded to a goalkeeper once, and that was way back in 1963 to the Russian Lev Yashin. There are many positions in different sports. In football, we have a goalkeeper, defenders, midfield, attackers. But this is a very general classification. Then we have wingers, who might be box-to-box players. We have a holding midfield. We have centre-backs. We have players who have to play out of their preferred position. All sports have the same issues. So just to summarise here, if an athlete plays a sport, the position they play will not prevent them or give them a greater chance of being a GOAT. A factor that might play out is the average career of athletes by position. For example, the average NFL career is about 3.5 years. The running backs have the shortest careers, lasting just 2.5 years. Wide receivers play on average about 3 years. Quarterbacks have the longest careers, lasting on average 5 seasons. The advantage in the race to the GOAT will see those having opportunity to play longer have greater opportunities to win. Evolution of leagues and new premier competitions. This category can definitely cause us issues in the final analysis. Remember, recently in 2021, 12 football clubs attempted a breakaway league to be called the ESL, the European Super League. We are led to believe this is the evolution of sport. But just in case you are not sure, here's a quick lesson. Evolution is the slow process of species adapting to their changing habitat, mostly in order to survive. So let's not kid ourselves when we say that new tournaments are happening as an evolution in sport. More often than not, there is the potential for more money to be made by somebody. The European Cup Winners' Cup was a football tournament and one that would certainly figure as one of the premier football competitions of its time. It was discontinued in 1999 due to the expansion of the Champions League. Darts had a breakaway league happen in 1992, and there are now 2 World Championships that could be won. It is universally accepted that the PDC is the organisation with the better players, but before that, the BDO was the only World Championship available to win. The IPL only started in 2008. At present, there are 3 forms of cricket, in both limited and unlimited over format. There is the Test match format with unlimited overs, and both the T20 and one-day internationals, with a maximum of 20 overs and 50 overs respectively in their formats. In eras gone by, many cricketers have only ever played the Test format, including Sir Donald Bradman, who averaged 99.94 in the 52 Test matches he played between 1928 and 1948. The limited over formats have their own premier events, such as World Cups and leagues. The best Test sides are actually measured in a much easier way, with a simple win, loss and draw status. There is no World Championship or trophy to play for. There are trophies such as the Ashes, which are awarded to the winners of the Test series between England and Australia, but these are so localised they cannot be included in the GOAT discussion. Olympic sports come and go. Tokyo 2020, or now as it is 2021, will have the sports of rock climbing, surfing, skateboarding, karate, baseball and softball introduced. And Paris 2024 is looking to introduce breakdancing. Unless the sports are classed as exhibition ones and included just for one Olympic Games only, then if a new sport comes in, one has to leave, as the Games only have 26 sports included. Over the years, we have seen sports such as rugby union, tennis, tug of war and solo synchronised swimming, solo synchronised swimming, being let go. Tennis was later reinstated though. Also, the events within each sport change. Not too many years ago, in Athens 2004, the 1 kilometre sprint race went. Then after the 2008 Beijing Games, the Madison and the individual pursuit were dropped. The Madison is now returning in Tokyo, but there is no sign anywhere of the individual pursuit happening in the Olympics. The continually changing face of sport makes it difficult to compare the success of athletes over different eras. But in the final analysis, and when the specific sport is investigated, then we can look at any anomalies due to the changing of the sport's premier calendar of events. It would take a real cynic to think that sport on an international level, in events such as the World Championships or the Olympic Games, are changed to prevent an individual from becoming the GOAT. The GOAT can only win what is available at the time, and to influence the results by using an algorithm would only warp facts. Just imagine if we were to try to anticipate how many golds such and such would have won had they had the opportunity to compete in an event that didn't exist. Maybe they might have been injured and retired out of the sport forever in the first of one of those hypothetical events. I think it's best we just deal with facts. Age. The expression, if you're good enough, you are old enough, sums it up nicely. It doesn't matter how old the GOAT is when they were participating. It doesn't matter if they were the oldest or the youngest when they achieved their success. War and acts of God. Unfortunately, mankind has this obsession with wars and killing each other. Now, these wars have had a significant effect at times on sporting events. The Olympic Games have been cancelled 5 different times due to war. The 1916 Summer Olympics, which were due to be staged in Berlin, were cancelled, as were the 1940 Summer Olympics, cancelled because of World War II. They were going to be staged in Tokyo and Helsinki. The 1940 Winter Olympics, which were going to be staged in Garmisch in Germany, they were cancelled. The 1944 Summer Olympics, due to be staged in London, cancelled. And the 1944 Winter Olympics, which were going to be staged in Cortina d'Ampezzo in Italy. Once again, they were cancelled. Now, a little bit like the hypotheticals, we can't say what would have happened had these Olympic Games taken place. But there are a couple of notable athletes that we should mention. The first was a fencer, a Hungarian fencer named Aladar Gerovic. Now, the unique thing about Aladar was that he won 7 Olympic golds in 7 different Olympic Games, starting in 1932, 1936, but unfortunately, in 1940 and 1944, he didn't have the opportunity to compete for the potential gold medal. Once the war had finished, he then went on to continue his gold medal win streak. 7 golds in 7 different Olympics. Unfortunately, there were 2 potential other Olympic Games he couldn't compete in. Also, the same can be said for Edoardo Mangiarotti, an Italian fencer who once again won gold before and after World War II. He won 6 gold medals between 1936 and 1960. Acts of God we would classify as events such as an earthquake, a volcano eruption, or a pandemic, something significant enough to prevent a sports competition being staged or athletes to be able to travel to an event or participate in that event. Now, all those situations that might have happened had the event not been affected by the act of God, once again, we cannot hypothesize. We can't use a hypothetical situation and therefore acts of God and also the effects of war on sports competition and any hypothetical situations arising from them will not be included in the GOAT analysis. The only way of determining who is the GOAT is based on their success. So, what are the measures of success in sport? If we ask elite athletes whether they would rather win or come second, I'm sure you know the answer. Can you imagine how Michael Jordan, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, Lewis Hamilton, Katie Ledecky, Phil Taylor, how any of these would answer if they were asked to define success in sport? Success is the be-all and end-all in sport. Sport can be measured in several different ways. It might be time, distance, speed, points, or position. And if you're not competing by whatever your measure, you are not playing sport, you are taking part in a physical activity. Be under no illusion when you are told by someone that it is the taking part that counts. That person probably has never won anything. Your teachers at school, and I have been in education many years, so I know, are not allowed to tell you you are a failure, even though you have just come last in the school sports day 100-metre race and taken 18 seconds over it. Well done, they tell you, well done. You have won your own race. Aye. Anyway, sport is all about winning. Watch the money-spinning third and fourth place playoff in the World Cup competitions. Neither team or individual wants to be there. It's gold or go home. It isn't the taking part that counts. The silver medal in the Olympics is the award for the best loser. Is being a losing finalist a measure of success? Is qualifying for next season's Champions League by coming fifth in a league a measure of success? How about going to the Olympics? Some might say this is a measure of success. But as I've said before, the GOAT in their sport are the biggest winners. And they are the biggest winners in the most important competitions, period. Not those who have consistently placed in the top 10 for the last 20 years. So it all comes down to one immutable method of determination of the GOAT, and that, as we have said, is success. And that success is, and only is, about winning. This success is actually quite simple to define and dependent on that specific sport. Every sport has its own premier competitions, those that the athletes want to win above all else, often those with the most history and often those that have the best of the sport competing to win and have done throughout the ages. They are often the most difficult to win, and that is the reason they are so coveted. If the sport is included in the Olympic programme, that is often one of the blue ribbon competitions. You will find that the Olympic football doesn't rate highly enough in male sport to affect their GOAT, but it does in the female GOAT. Golf was just introduced in the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Games, and there were many golfers that had indifferent views about even participating in those games. What is the pinnacle in one sport might not be the pinnacle in another. Even within the select handful of premier competitions, there is a hierarchy of these events. A professional tennis player would rather win a Grand Slam than the Olympic gold. A track and field athlete would rate Olympic gold above the World Championships and the Diamond League. The Rugby Union World Cup is more important than the Six Nations. The boxing world heavyweight belt is more important than the European or intercontinental belts. If you are an athlete competing in a sport that has world records for a time or a distance, this is also a measure of success. They will also probably have been gained whilst winning a competition. Usain Bolt's 9.58 seconds for the 100 metres is a measure of success and greatness. In determining the hierarchy of the sport's significant competitions, I have listened to informed voices who include elite athletes who have actually won some of the very competitions we have talked about. I have listened to PE teachers, sports science lecturers, athletes at all levels of the concerned sport, and also my friends and family. For a tennis player, the hierarchy is, at the top we have Grand Slams, then we have the ATP Tour Finals, the Olympics, and then the Davis Cup. These are the only events that will count towards the GOAT. As I said, all sports have their premier competitions. For football we have the World Cup, the Champions League, the Copa Libertadores, the European Cup, the Big Five European leagues and their cup tournaments, World Club Championships, and below those are the second-rated leagues, that include countries such as Holland, Brazil, Argentina, and also their cup competitions. Mainstream US sports are much easier to define in regard to success. In baseball, basketball, American football and ice hockey, basically all the teams aim to become the champions that year. They only enter one competition. They want to win the Super Bowl or the World Series or the Final Series. It's all about who wins the last game. I am going to identify the GOAT in all the mainstream sports. They are the world's biggest, the world's most known, the most played and the most established. There are 22 of them in total, and they include American football, tennis, golf, rugby union, rowing, cycling, swimming, track and field, and another 15 others. Track and field is classed by many as a sport, but I see many different sports under the umbrella of track and field events. For sure, there will be a GOAT sprinter, a GOAT javelin thrower, and a GOAT high jumper. Each event is a sport in itself. I would personally do away with the 200-metre sprint. Aren't they just failed 100-metre runners? Much as I like the history of the 3,000-metre steeplechase, I would say goodbye to one of either the steeplechase or the 5,000 metres. A sport I hold very dear to my heart is cycling, and I know there are essentially different disciplines within the sport. There are sprinters, time trialists, and climbers. There are specialists in the Grand Tours, and then those suited more to the one-day classics. I'm sorry to popularise this informed piece, but as you can easily imagine, it takes a lot of time investigating and researching. And are you really interested in who is the greatest croquet player of all time? Please like, subscribe and turn on the notifications to ensure you don't miss the GOAT films as they are produced and released. So we talked about the hierarchy of sports competitions. The most prestigious competition is worth 100, and the other significant ones rated against that maximum of 100. There are many sports competitions that do not register or appear anywhere on the radar. This level of tournament is so insignificant in the bigger picture and will not affect the GOAT debate. An example is that Pelé won the Campeonato Paulista, which is the Championship Paulista, with Santos. This championship is a league for teams in the Brazilian state of Sao Paulo only. This championship Pelé won will not be included in his analysis. However, the Taça Brasil, the Copa Libertadores, the Intercontinental Cup, and the World Cups he won all will. And as I have said now several times, all sports will have their own premier competitions, and these are the ones the GOAT will have been the most successful in. I'm really looking forward to finding out and determining who is the greatest of all time in each of the sports. I really want to thank you for listening, and I look forward to discussing anything about the GOAT in their sport. Leave your thoughts in the discussion below, and I'm sure I'll get back to you. One last thing, if you are interested in sport, I have a book published which includes over 2,000 of the best sports facts and jokes related to all sports. It's online now and available in all good bookshops. So get yourselves one of those, or maybe somebody you know has got an upcoming birthday, or what a Christmas present that's going to make somebody. Take care and see you soon. Bye-bye now.